They thought silence meant weakness, that if you didn't speak, you'd already lost. But silence isn't surrender, it's the beginning of your rise. In a world addicted to noise, your silence will echo the loudest. This is how they break. They feed on your reactions, starve them with silence. That's the truth most people don't want to hear. The moment you speak, they win. The second you flinch, they feed. Every sigh, every tear, every outburst, it's exactly what they want. They want to know they still have control over you. That their words still sting, that their games still work. But the minute you stop giving them that fuel, the minute you shut off the supply, they start to starve. They crave drama, attention, your pain dressed up as performance. They want a reaction because it validates them. If they insult you and you bite back, they feel powerful. If they lie and you scramble to explain, they feel justified. If they hurt you and you cry, they know they've won. But when you stop giving them that pleasure, when your silence becomes your answer, they begin to break. They have no idea what you're thinking, how you're feeling, or what you're planning, and that kills them slowly. Silence creates confusion, doubt, fear. They start to wonder if you're really unaffected, if maybe they underestimated you. They replay the moment in their head, trying to figure out why you didn't respond, what it means. That's the mind game they never expected you to play, and it's one they can't handle, because silence isn't passive, it's power in its purest form. It says, I don't owe you a reaction, I don't owe you anything. You see, when you stay quiet, you take back control. You're no longer operating in their world, you're no longer dancing to their rhythm, you're moving on your terms, and that's terrifying for those who tried to dominate you. They need your emotional energy to survive. They need your outrage to stay relevant in your life. But you're not giving them a show anymore. You're not lighting yourself on fire so they can stay warm. You've gone cold, and that chill breaks them from the inside out. People often confuse silence with surrender, but real silence, the kind that comes from discipline and focus, is anything but weakness. It's patience with purpose. It's calm with a storm hidden underneath. While they talk, you build. While they gossip, you grow. While they shout into the wind, you walk through it with your head high and your mouth closed. Not because you can't speak, but because you choose not to waste your voice on people who no longer deserve it. Let them wonder what you're thinking. Let them be disturbed by your stillness. Let them drown in the silence they created but can't survive in. Because eventually, silence becomes the loudest noise in the room. It echoes, it haunts, it lingers long after the chaos has stopped. And when they finally realize they can't hurt you anymore, when they see you didn't just walk away, you evolved, something inside them cracks. Revenge doesn't always come in screams or fire. Sometimes it arrives without a sound. It's the day they look up and realize you've become everything they said you'd never be, and you did it without ever needing to explain, prove, or defend yourself. That's what silence does. It speaks through actions, through progress, through unbothered peace. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being strategic, choosing not to waste energy on things beneath you. They wanted chaos, you gave them nothing. They wanted noise, you gave them stillness. They expected weakness, you gave them silence, and in that silence they start to crumble, because now they're left with nothing to feed on. No reaction, no breakdown, no access to your mind. Just the deafening realization that they've lost all power over you. Now they feel it, the emptiness, the hunger, the desperation. But it's too late, because you've learned the secret. You've seen what silence can do. And now you carry that silence like a weapon, one that cuts deeper than words ever could. Let them starve. Every word you don't say becomes a weapon they can't block. That's the power they never saw coming. Most people expect a fight. They expect you to argue, to yell, to defend yourself. That's the game they know how to play. They know how to twist your words, use your anger against you, turn your truth into something ugly. But when you say nothing, when you choose silence over reaction, suddenly they're unarmed. Suddenly there's nothing to grab onto, nothing to manipulate, nothing to use, and that's when the tables turn. Silence isn't just the absence of noise, it's the presence of restraint. It's the decision to rise above the bait, because that's all it is, bait. The insults, the provocation, the lies, they're all traps. And the moment you take them personally, the moment you respond with emotion, you're exactly where they want you, controlled, predictable, caught. But when you hold your ground and let the words die in your throat, you become untouchable. Every word you hold back becomes a blade they can't dodge, because it's not just what you say. It's what they can't read, can't measure, can't prepare for. They want you exposed. They want to see you break. But your silence blinds them. It keeps them guessing. They don't know if you're hurt or healed or just done. And that uncertainty, it eats at them, because they expected a target and got a wall. They expected noise and got shadows. And you become something else entirely, not a victim, not a fighter, something above it, something they can't reach anymore. They'll accuse you of being cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll try to poke at you, push you, get some kind of rise, because your silence isn't just confusing, it's threatening. It means you're not under their control anymore, and people hate that. They hate when you're calm. When you're quiet, because calm people are dangerous. Calm people don't waste energy. They calculate, and quiet people don't reveal plans. They execute. Let them talk. Let them shout into the air, convinced their noise means something. While they waste time with words, you're moving forward. While they throw cheap shots, you're building something bigger. And every time you choose not to respond, you're stacking the bricks of your comeback. Not with noise, not with excuses, but with results, and results don't explain themselves. They speak for you, louder than you ever could. There's power in holding back, not out of fear, but out of clarity. You don't owe them your side of the story. You don't owe them your pain in pretty language. Let them wonder, let them invent their versions. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, it's not about proving who you are. It's about becoming someone so focused, so solid, so removed from their chaos that they no longer matter. That's when you win, and the truth is, silence can't be argued with. It can't be disproven. It can't be twisted. It stands tall, unmoved, unshaken. They'll try to fill it with their own narratives. Let them, because the more they talk and the less you respond, the clearer it becomes who's really in control. They don't know what you're thinking, what you're planning, how much you've grown, and that unknown, it terrifies them. They can't block what they can't see coming. You're not hiding, you're mastering. You're watching everything and saying nothing, letting them reveal who they are while you reveal nothing. And when the time comes, when your results, your strength, your silence all come crashing into their world, they won't know what hit them. Because the blow they never see is the one that breaks them. Keep your words, hold them like blades, use them only when it matters, and until then, let your silence do what they never thought it could, destroy them without a sound. Quiet isn't weakness, it's the storm before impact. That's what they'll never understand. They look at you and they think your silence means you're done, that your calm means you've given up. They mistake stillness for surrender. But that's because they don't know what real strength looks like. Real strength doesn't need to shout. It doesn't need to be seen every second. It doesn't need to prove itself on demand. Sometimes the deadliest force is the one that says nothing. Until it strikes, people think if you're not reacting, if you're not fighting back in public, then you must be broken. They think if you're not explaining yourself, defending your name, screaming your truth, then they've won. But you know better. You know silence isn't defeat, it's focus. It's the wait before the hit. It's the breath before the roar, because you're not done. You're just getting ready, and when that impact comes, it's going to be louder than anything they've ever heard. That's what they forget. Storms don't start with thunder. They begin in silence. The sky goes still. The wind calms, and then it hits all at once. That's you. You're building in the quiet. You're training in the shadows. You're healing in the dark. And while they run their mouths, thinking the noise means control, you're becoming something they're not even prepared for. Quiet is power under control. It's rage with a leash. It's strength that doesn't need an audience. You're not loud because you don't need to be. You're not reacting because you know exactly what you're saving your energy for. They can't see it, and that's the point. They laugh now, they talk now, but you know what's coming. You feel it. It's not weakness, it's timing. And while they mock you, distract themselves with the sound of their own voices, you're locking in. You're getting sharper, colder, stronger, not to prove anything to them, but because that's what it takes, because you've got something they'll never understand, discipline, the discipline to stay quiet when the world begs you to scream, the discipline to build while others boast, the discipline to take hits in silence, knowing one day you'll return all of it in a single, unstoppable blow. They won't see it coming. That's the beauty of silence. It hides the real work. It hides the transformation. They think they've got you figured out, but they're still stuck on the version of you that used to react, used to chase, used to break down, but you've gone quiet. And that's when everything changed. You don't need to explain your silence. You don't owe anyone your voice, not yet. Let them think you've backed down. Let them think the silence means they've broken you. That illusion is your greatest weapon, because while they get comfortable, while they drop their guard, while they underestimate you, you're becoming dangerous, and when it's time, when the storm hits, it'll be swift and it'll be final. You won't be the same. You won't need to say a word. Your presence will do it for you. The ones who laughed will go silent. The ones who underestimated you will look away. Because the truth will be written in your results, carved into your success and screaming from the silence they tried to dismiss. They never understood that quiet wasn't your surrender, it was your preparation. Now let them feel the storm. They expected screams. Deliver silence and success instead. That's how you destroy them. Not with loud battles, not with dramatic scenes, not with wasted breath trying to convince people of your worth. They wanted a reaction. They wanted chaos. They wanted to see you fall apart just to prove to themselves that they still had power over you. But you didn't give them that. You gave them nothing, and nothing, real, cold, deliberate nothing, is the last thing they ever knew how to handle. Because when they pushed you, they expected fire. They expected breakdowns, meltdowns, long explanations. They waited for the moment you'd crack, lash out, scream your side. That's what they were prepared for. That's what they rehearsed in their heads. They never thought you'd just go quiet. They never thought you'd take the hit, disappear, and start building in silence. And they definitely never expected that silence to turn into success. There's something terrifying about someone who doesn't scream when they're hurt, someone who doesn't argue when they're attacked, someone who doesn't react when provoked. That kind of silence, it's a sign. It means you're no longer fighting for attention, for validation, for justice in the court of people who already chose their side. It means you've stopped bleeding for an audience that only came to watch. It means you've stopped playing the role they tried to cast you in, and that silence, it's where everything shifts, because it's in the silence that you work. It's in the silence that you rebuild, not for show. Not to prove them wrong, but because you've realized the only thing that matters now is your next move, the win they won't see coming, the comeback that doesn't come with a speech, just results. Success doesn't need to be shouted. Real power doesn't ask for applause, it just arrives. So while they talk, while they spread lies, while they cling to their version of the story, you stay focused. Let them exhaust themselves trying to tear down a version of you that doesn't even exist anymore. Let them get comfortable thinking you've lost. Let them keep looking for a response that's never coming. That silence, it's not emptiness, it's strategy. It's the space where you reclaim your mind, your strength, your direction. They don't get to watch you suffer. They don't get to feed off your pain because you've locked it down, turned it inward, used it to fuel something greater. That silence they thought was surrender is actually your foundation. Brick by brick, piece by piece, you're putting yourself back together. But this time it's different. You're not building for approval. You're building for war. You're building something solid, something they can't reach, can't shake, can't stop. And when it's ready, you won't need to announce it. Your life will speak. Your peace will speak. Your elevation will speak, and all the noise they made will fade beneath the weight of what you've become. Because success in silence hits harder than any argument ever could. It doesn't ask for credit, it doesn't ask for revenge, it just ends the conversation. They expected to break you, they expected you to beg, to justify, to shout. But you chose something more dangerous. You chose not to care what they expected. You chose to walk away and put all your energy into something they couldn't touch, our own evolution. And now, without a word, you're becoming everything they swore you'd never be. There is nothing louder than a person who doesn't respond, but keeps rising. There is nothing more unsettling than watching someone you tried to destroy come back stronger, without ever mentioning your name. And when you show up next, when the world sees what you've become, they'll know. They'll remember, and they'll realize that the silence wasn't the end. It was the warning. While they speak, you build. Let the results echo louder. Let them run their mouths, let them keep talking, let them convince themselves that words alone can shape reality, because while they're wasting time weaving stories and stirring drama, you're moving in silence, stacking every hour, every effort, every scar into something they can't stop. That's the difference between you and them. They want attention now. You want power later. They live for noise, for validation, for being seen. You live for the work, for the grind no one sees, for the sacrifices no one claps for. They want applause, you want results, and results don't come from speaking. They come from building, from choosing action when words are cheap, from doing the things that need to be done, even when no one's watching, even when they doubt you, mock you, forget you. They don't understand that silence is not absence, it's focus. While they speak, you're studying. While they brag, you're bleeding. While they laugh, you're pushing past every limit they set for you. You don't need to respond. You don't need to argue. You let them talk, because when you're building something real, you don't have time to prove anything to anyone. The finished product will speak for itself, and when it does, when your success finally hits the air, it'll echo louder than anything they ever said. Not because you shouted, but because you built something they can't ignore, something too real to deny, something that silences everything they said, without you ever saying a word. That's how you win. Not by reacting, not by fighting for space in a room full of noise, but by rising above it, quietly, relentlessly. They won't see the long nights, they won't see the doubt, the pain, the rejection you had to swallow just to keep going. But they will see what comes from it, and when they do, they'll realize every word they wasted was energy they could have spent growing. Instead, they talked, you moved, and now you're miles ahead. They think their words define you. Let them throw labels, assumptions, insults. It doesn't matter, because you're not defined by what they say. You're defined by what you do next, and that's what they'll never control, your next move. Your decision to wake up and put in work when no one believes in you. Your refusal to quit even when it would have been easier to fold. That's what separates you. You're not chasing approval. You're chasing progress. You're not interested in proving a point. You're too busy becoming the point. And every step forward, every level you rise, every quiet win you collect, it chips away at everything they ever said about you. That's the kind of revenge that lasts, the kind they feel every time they see you do what they swore you never could. So don't speak, not yet. Let them enjoy their moment. Let them enjoy the sound of their own voice. Because while they're clinging to noise, you're building something that will drown it all out, something permanent, something that won't need defense or explanation. Your results will be undeniable, unshakable, unmatched, and when that moment comes, don't look back, don't tell them you told them so, don't explain how you did it, just stand there, let them look, let them feel the weight of everything you built while they were busy talking. Let the silence carry your message, let the results echo louder than every lie, every doubt, every insult they ever spoke. They made their noise, now let them hear yours. Silence is your shield, your revenge, your final answer. It's what keeps you whole when everything else is trying to tear you apart. They expect you to fight back, to lash out, to spill your pain like blood in the street. That's what they're waiting for, a reaction. That's the only thing that keeps them in control. But when you give them nothing, when your mouth stays closed and your eyes stay forward, they lose all power, because silence doesn't mean you've lost. It means you've chosen not to play their game anymore. There's nothing more unsettling to the ones who try to hurt you than a quiet target. They push, they prod, they provoke, and you give them no sound, no emotion, no cracks to crawl into. That's when the fear sets in. Not yours, theirs, because they can't measure silence, they can't predict it, they can't twist it, and it's in that silence where they realize they've lost control over you, not because you fought harder, but because you simply stopped responding. That's the kind of power they can't understand. You're not silent because you're weak. You're silent because you've finally realized not everything deserves your energy, not every insult needs an answer. Not every betrayal deserves an explanation. You're protecting your peace, your time, your future, and silence becomes your shield, not because you're afraid to speak, but because you no longer care who's listening. You know where you're going, you know what you're building, you know what they said, what they did. But you also know they don't matter anymore. People confuse silence with surrender, but if they only knew what kind of fire burns behind the quiet, what kind of pain got turned into fuel, what kind of storms you've survived without a word, you don't show it, you don't brag about it, you just carry it. You walk with it, and that calm, steady silence, it's more dangerous than any scream, because when you stop talking, you start moving. When you stop explaining, you start evolving. Revenge doesn't always need a punchline. Sometimes it's a life lived well, a life they can't touch, a life that no longer includes them. That's the final blow, not rage, not destruction, but distance, detachment, silence. When they realize they can't reach you, not emotionally, not mentally, not spiritually, that's when the real damage is done, because the one thing they always wanted was your attention, your pain, your breakdown. And now you've sealed all of it behind silence. They'll try to reopen the door. They'll bait you with apologies, with guilt, with one more round of manipulation. Don't answer. Let the silence speak for you. It says more than any comeback ever could. It says you don't matter anymore. It says I'm done bleeding for people who watch me fall. It says I've moved on and I'm not looking back. That's not weakness, that's closure. You're not walking away from the fight. You're walking away from the noise because you've realized that your focus is too valuable to waste. You're putting that energy into something higher, into building, into healing, into becoming the person no one thought you could be. And that kind of transformation doesn't require a crowd. It doesn't need applause. It just needs silence and time, the silence to tune out the chaos, the time to rebuild in your own way. Every time you choose not to respond, not to explain, not to defend yourself, you're reclaiming your power. Every time you let them talk while you stay silent, you're making a statement they can't interrupt. Every time you rise quietly, without a word, you remind them that the best revenge isn't loud, it's complete. So hold that silence close, use it, let it be your armor, let it be your answer when they demand a reaction. Let it be your peace when they try to pull you back into their storm, because the ones who need to be loud are usually the weakest. But the one who stands silent and still, that's the one they never see coming. Let your silence finish what they started. Remember, the power of silence isn't in what you say, but in what you don't. Stay calm, stay focused, and let your silence be the force that breaks them down. If this message hit you deep, like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, keep winning quietly.